Hey, what's going on? It's Brody from Retrolanders on camera. Fuck. I mean, this doesn't happen. I'm usually behind a microphone. I'm usually not even making videos, so welcome back for me, I guess. I really hate doing these kind of videos. I don't like selfies. I don't like this kind of stuff. But wanted to just show my collection a bit and my gaming setup. Let me just kind of give a little sneak peek here. It's a little bit of a tighter space. It's one half of another room that I have all my music equipment in. It's just this whole big loft is like a music retro area. So I wanted to show the collection, my systems, and maybe a little demonstration of how I kind of have them all working together. Alright, so this is my complete US N64 collection. That's right, I have a loose cart, full 296 N64 games. This is the only console that I have a complete set of. Might be the only one I ever get a complete set of. Reason being is it was the first game console I ever owned as a kid, and it just kind of means a lot to me. And I actually even have this Banjo-Kazooie promotional Toys R Us tape playing over here on the VCR right now. Pretty cool stuff. Below that, I have my vinyl collection. I just started getting into that over the past year. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for getting me this record player. This thing also plays tapes and CDs and Bluetooth, and I have this hooked up to that subwoofer and these two speakers right here, as well as, you know, the TV and everything. So that is the N64 collection. We're going to come back to the consoles in a second. I'm going to show you all the rest of my collection. Alright, so this is pretty much everything except for modern day. Modern day being anything that requires an HDMI cable, so PS3, Xbox 360, PS4 for Xbox, so on and so forth. So this is everything from all the way up until the Wii, basically. Alright, so first off we have our Xbox originals. I mainly get everything on Xbox from the 6th generation because that was the most powerful console of that time, and I just really like the console. You don't really need to use a memory card, and just really the games run really well and they look great. Okay, and below that we are getting into my PS2 games. I have quite a bit of PS2 games, and they're all exclusive. Maybe a couple here and there, like Star Wars Battlefront and Dragon Ball Z. The reason why I have these on PlayStation 2 is because I actually have owned these games since I was young, so I just, I don't know, kind of felt weird getting rid of it. They mean a lot to me. So that's the end of the PS2 exclusives, and we're going to get into a few of my PSP games. Don't really play a lot of PSP, but I find a lot of these games, and they're really cool, especially this one right here, Sid Meier's Pirates. I play a lot of that on the Xbox. Alright, and then moving on from there is our GameCube collection. I don't have a whole lot of GameCube games, but I try to just get exclusives, or if it wasn't on the Xbox, but it was on PS2 and GameCube, I'll go ahead and get the GameCube version just because I already have so many PS2 exclusives, and who doesn't love playing games on the GameCube? And my very small Wii collection. This is the Game Boy player disc for the GameCube. These are actually getting harder and harder to find. The disc itself, actually, the player's not even that hard to find. And that's it for the top of the shelf. And moving on, we're getting into my NES collection. Now I have this game in this case because this is actually my most valuable game that I own. Metal Storm on the NES. I think these are going for about 110 or 120 right now, so I try to keep that in good shape. A couple Famicom games, and then these are all NES titles. And then we have a few of my Master System titles, just to have a handful or so. Not really too into that system, but I love the NES. Which brings us to the Super NES. Some great titles here. Favorite game on the console has to be Chrono Trigger. Absolutely. Lots of great RPGs and platformers, and all around just a great system for all kinds of genres. And then below the Super Nintendo games are the Genesis games. just a few of those, and then I have a few Atari Jaguar games as well. Just a couple, like Wolfenstein and Alien vs Predator, Tempest 2000, really cool game. And moving on, we have kind of a miscellaneous shelf. I've got a couple long box US Saturn games, a few Genesis games complete in box, and then I even have this Atari Jaguar game called Attack of the Mutant Penguins complete in box. So this is just really weird. One of the weirdest games I've ever played. I don't even know how to play it, honestly. Then I just have a couple PC titles right there. Star Wars. Love Star Wars, if you can't tell. And underneath that we have my Japanese Saturn games. Now I have a Saturn, and that it is from Japan, so most of the games I get for the Saturn come from Japan because they're just cheaper and there's a lot more to choose from than the US library has to offer, since that console was not popular over here at all. It was definitely a Japanese thing. But it's great for fighting games and shmups, like for example, this game right here, Cyberbots Full Metal Madness. It's pretty much a Capcom Street Fighter game with mechs. Awesome. And then you have your games that everyone kind of knows about, like Darkstalkers, which is actually known as I can't even freaking find it. Look, Vampire Hunter. This is called Darkstalkers 2, I think, in the US. But it's the same exact game, and they don't even, need to know Japanese because the game's completely in English, which is weird, but good for us. After the Saturn games, I have a small Dreamcast collection. One of my best friends, Josh Looper, is a Dreamcast fanatic, and he has most of the games, but I just kind of have a few here that I like to play, especially Power Stone, and then Soul Calibur. Sonic Adventure's alright. I'm not like a big Sonic fan, but kind of interested how that movie's going to turn out with Jim Carrey as Robotnik. And underneath here, we have PlayStation 1 titles. Not a whole lot of here. I actually own quite a bit of PS1 classics digitally, and I haven't really felt the need to start getting physical versions of those, except for like I have Final Fantasy VII, and if I find good deals on like Castlevania and stuff like that, I'll get it. But a lot of these PS1 games I already bought digitally because I wanted to play them on the Vita. Speaking of Vita, here I have one physical Vita game, Final Fantasy X and X-2. And I have this custom case for Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge for the Game Boy Advance. And then a few 3DS and one DS game, Chrono Trigger. So, yeah, I try to get a lot of digital games on handhelds just because I don't really like keeping up with Game Boy games and stuff like you see here. I kind of just have them on top of this Nintendo custom shelf. This was actually an NES holder from back in the day. I found it off of Craigslist for about $40. But I pretty much just use it to store Game Boy games, and I have some other stuff in there like reproductions and homebrew stuff that I don't really consider like part of the collection, even though it is. And then I keep a lot of my handheld systems down here. So original Game Boy, SP, that's like my best friend on this whole entire rack. 3DS, a couple Vitas and PSPs. So don't really use these too much since the Switch came out, but it's cool to have, and just know that I can boot up any of these games whenever I'd like to. All right, moving on. We've actually come downstairs to look at my modern collection. I wanted to show this before I show off the gaming setups. But yeah, it's just PS4 games. I love PS4. Love PlayStation. Absolutely. Have a ton of PS3 games. Give you all a good shot of this so you can kind of look through it all. I know y'all like to look through and pause the video and all that. Yeah. So for the 7th gen, I get everything I can on PS3, and then I try to get exclusives only. Well, I guess 7th and 8th gen. So PS4 and Xbox One, I usually only get exclusives for Xbox One and exclusives only for the 360. So I've got my Switch games, the Wii U games, some Xbox One games, that don't get a whole lot of attention except for Forza Horizon. And then here's my Xbox 360 collection. I'm actually really proud of the 360 collection because these are all more kind of obscure titles. Since all of my third-party, more popular games on PS3, my 360 collection ends up being very interesting to go through. So I actually really like that console now that I'm kind of exclusives only on it. So we're going to go back upstairs and I'm going to show you the gaming setup. Alright, got a little bit of light on now just so you can see the consoles better. So this is my retro setup. CRT television. I've got a little couch here with some Dragon Ball Z and Mario pillows because I'm just a big fucking kid that's into all these kiddie things, which is great because it's 2019 and you can be whatever you want and no one can say shit. Alrighty, so let me kind of run you through this setup real quick. So this TV is actually, it's a CRT television obviously, but it came from kind of later in that technology's life. So it actually has pretty good picture. I'm not sure if you can tell on the video because of that the signal that it puts out, but it has component input, it has S-video, and I utilize a lot of that stuff too. Mainly composite, because most of these consoles are composite only. I mean, a lot of them can do S-video, but wasn't really feeling the switchers that I could find for that. So let me just kind of run through the consoles itself. So I have everything I can running through a VCR. The VCR has two inputs, you know, channel 1, line 1 and line 2. And on line 1, I have all the stuff labeled as well. You know, NES, Super NES, Nintendo, GameCube. So pretty much Nintendo and Sega are all on this one dedicated switcher. And it's really easy to go through and put a game in, press the button, and just make sure you're on the, you know, you only have to keep it on one video input on the TV and just make sure you're on the right input on the VCR and it's gonna work. I do have this little 3 switcher right here that has my PlayStation 1, the Atari Jaguar, and one thing that was empty up until today, which I just put this Atari flashback on it. Figured that would be a lot easier than getting an Atari 2600 and into composite and everything like that. So just gonna use the flashback for now. I'm not really too fond of those games. I don't have the nostalgia. I appreciate them, but they're just not quite as fun. You know, I can go back and play NES and Super NES, no problem, but something about Atari just doesn't quite grab me. So those are the 11 composite consoles I have hooked up. And all of these are running through the VCR, and I actually have this new hobby of recording my gameplay onto VHS. So I've made little sizzle reels of like video game intros. I've even plugged in my own music and made little music videos with different games, and oh, it's a lot of fun because you get to kind of make your own playlist. And sometimes when I'm up here cleaning or rearranging, I'll put on one of my mixtapes, if you will, and it'll be awesome. So those are the 11 composites. Those are all running through the VCR. They're 2 different inputs, and then I have 3 consoles that are component enabled. So that would be the Wii, the Xbox, and the PlayStation 2. Those are not running through the VCR. They're just going directly into the switch box and into the TV. So to play those 3 consoles, you do have to switch the input on the TV, but not a big deal at all. But yeah, let me just kind of show you how I have all this set up. So Xbox and PS2 hanging out together. These consoles were pretty wide, so I couldn't fit it into the cube organizer. And then I've got Sega Master System, the Nintendo NES, an Atari Flashback, new edition. And then this is actually just one of those 4x2 cube organizers you can get at Target. I find them really good for these retro consoles. And it's really easy to move this thing around, and it's nice that the back's open on everything, so I can undo consoles and make changes pretty easily with this setup. So GameCube, silver, I love the silver. That's the Game Boy player I was talking about. So you can play Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games on the TV. PlayStation 1, which sometimes I just use the PS2, but something about just getting that PS1 startup screen I like. N64, it's a definite must-have. Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and the Wii next to each other. The GameCube and the Wii used to be next to each other, but I switched the GameCube and Super Nintendo around so I could make room for that speaker right there. And then there's the Japanese Sega Saturn. Very cool, I love the colors on that. And then we have the lonely Atari Jaguar that doesn't get a lot of playing time, but the few games I do play for it, I do enjoy. And then we have the Dreamcast down here. So that is the 14 console setup that I have running up here right now, and I mean there is room to expand if I ever wanted to. I'm not really sure what other consoles I could put on here besides maybe like a Neo Geo or a TurboGrafx 16, but you know, those are both very expensive consoles to collect for. Just haven't quite gotten into them. Okay, let me just kind of show you what's over in these boxes. This is where I keep all the controllers. I used to have labels on them, but I've kind of reconfigured what I'm doing, so I need to make some new labels. But you know, PlayStation controllers, Xbox controllers. Those are the two consoles I play the most of. PS2 and Xbox. Definitely play a lot of N64. That'd probably be the third most. And then there's some GameCube and Wii stuff in there. All the Sega. I kind of need to go through. I have too many. Found a good deal on a Dreamcast bundle that came with like 3 controllers that I don't need. So I'm gonna kind of go through and maybe trade some of those in or sell them. And then I've just got the Atari Jaguar and Flashback controllers in there. And here we've got some PS1 fighting sticks and a PS1 light gun. And then in here, I think this is the Sega Dreamcast light guns, and then a couple N64 accessories. So, yeah. So I mean, you could pretty much, you know, walk up here and pick a game from the library, and you know, follow the directions, put it in the console, and go. And all the controllers are up here. Everything works. You don't have to unhook any wires. I mean, it's a very functional gaming setup. I absolutely love it up here. All right. Well, I am going to show a little bit of my modern setup downstairs. I am planning on. I just got a new desk and I'm getting all this stuff rearranged, but I am planning on getting a PS3 and PS4 hookup. I need to get a drawer that slides out under here. I feel like this whole room is just a constant work in progress, but it's a lot of fun. It's like a big playground. All right. Ooh, there's a dog toy even on the floor. Just wanted to show what I use for my my other consoles. We're back downstairs, so I have a PS4 Pro. There's a little dusty down there. Xbox One S, and that's a Retron 5. So those 3 consoles are running. I think that's input number 1 for the Xbox, and then the cable box is running through it. PS4 Pro, I think, is on input 2, and then the Retron 5's on input 3. I don't use this a whole lot, but if I ever feel like playing an NES game or a Super NES game, or I mean, this thing plays like 8, 9, 10 different consoles. I know I have the option of playing them downstairs and in HD, so that's great. And then the fourth input on the fourth HDMI input on the TV has this 4-in, 1-out HDMI switcher hooked up, in which I have the Nintendo Switch, the Wii U, the 360, and then an original model PS3, which actually plays PS1, PS2 games. These are getting harder to find because they keep breaking, but mine fortunately still works. So yeah, this is a, how many consoles is this? 7? So there's a 14 console setup on the retro TV, and then I've got 7 on the modern TV. So I mean, it's really easy to just kind of find any game in the house and plug it in and go. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. I'm hopefully going to make some more gaming content. I got a new capture card coming in this weekend, so yeah, we'll see y'all later. Bye.